milk fever in sheep and goats. Before entering to milk fever, let us see about the crucial or the critical nutrient which is responsible for milk fever. Calcium, as we know, it is the most important major macro mineral. The main calcium depots are there in bone and skeleton. Around 99% of calcium depot is in bone or skeleton. There, the calcium exists with phosphorus in the ratio of 2.2:1, and the soft tissue and body fluids contribute for 1% of the calcium depot. The main forms of calcium can be divided into ionized, non-ionized, and protein bound. For important, we have to look here is the ionized calcium. As it is a free calcium available, this is very much important for the maintenance of normal serum calcium level so that the animals won't prone for hypocalcemia. And then the role of calcium, like this will be important in dealing with pathogenesis and the clinical signs which are manifested in disease. The calcium is important for bone formation, muscle contraction, neuromuscular excitation, and even blood coagulation. And coming to calcium homeostasis, as we know, all of us know this, but to rebrush our memory, to recap our memory in a quick turn, for calcium homeostasis, mainly two hormones play a major role. One is PTH, that is parathyroid hormone, and the calcitonin. Whenever there is decreased calcium, that is serum calcium level is decreased, the hormone is secreted, called a parathormone, is secreted from parathyroid gland, which in turn acts on the bones so that there will be osteoclastic bone resorption. So that calcium which is produced from the osteoclastic activity will be coming to the blood, and there will be maintenance of the blood calcium. Along with it, this parathormone acts on the kidney so that in turn our vitamin D3 or 1,2,5-dihydroxycholecalciferol is secreted, which in turn acts on the intestine so that there will be uptake of the calcium, that there is absorption of the calcium so that normal plasma or serum concentration of calcium is maintained. Whenever there is increased amount of calcium, what happens? This calcitonin secreted from the thyroid gland acts on the bones for the osteoblastic activity. So more calcium go and deposit in the bone, and vice versa, there will be, it acts on the kidneys so that more renal excretion of the calcium takes place so that the increased amount of calcium comes to normal level. This is calcium homeostasis. Coming to actual disease, milk fever, the synonyms of the milk fever are periparturient hypocalcemia or parturient paresis. It is common during late pregnancy and early lactation. Like in cattle, the milk fever is post-parturient paresis. Paresis means after calving, usually there is decreased ionized calcium in the serum. In turn, it manifests as milk fever. But in the small ruminants, it's common during late pregnancy also, and it's uncommon in early lactation. Not it's like won't occur, but it is uncommon. It can occur at any time from 6 weeks before to 10 weeks after pasteurization. That what I said, like transition period, it can occur anywhere in between. Particularly in animals pregnant with multiple fetuses are higher risk, because see, the fetal calcification takes place at the later term of the pregnancy. Whenever there are multiple fetuses, the calcium requirement for the calcification of the fetus is more, so that the more mobilization from the dam side, so there will be decreased calcium availability for the dam, making it susceptible to hypocalcemia. So as I said, like calcification of fetal bones, there will be increased demand of calcium. It will be more during 1 to 3 weeks of prepartum. Before pasteurization, 1 to 3 months, there is high demand for calcium due to fetal calcification. So this is the most susceptible period for the milk fever in sheep and goat. It is more likely to occur in late part of the gestation, like even like when the animal the pasteurization date is due, like 1 to 2 or 3 weeks before pasteurization, it is common. This is because whenever the sometimes even though there are prolific breeds in sheep also, they carry multiple fetuses, so the fetus demands more calcium. So whenever the Eve carrying multiple fetuses, the chances of hypocalcemia is more. And in goats, what happens? It may occur either prepartum or postpartum. Prepartum, whenever the multiple fetuses, it's a high prolific breeder. Whenever there is multiple fetuses, the demand for calcium is more. So prepartum milk fever can be noticed. But when postpartum, we know there are certain goats which are meant for milk production, right? Like our Jamunapari, like in exotic breed Saanen, Alpine, like all these have high capacity for the milk production. So there are high chances of occurrence of hypocalcemia after pasteurization, that is postpartum. So then drain of calcium in milk is higher than that of cow's milk. Goat milk, whenever the drain of calcium is there, it's more when compared to goat milk. Etiology, like it's like demand and supply. The demand is high, but what we are supplying is low. This imbalance give rise to milk fever. Then in prepartum, the fetal demand will be more. In the postpartum, the drain in milk, the calcium will be more. So this will be the etiology for the milk fever. With this, like, there will be vitamin D. As we know, the vitamin D and phosphorus, like correct calcium to phosphorus ratio is also important for efficient calcium absorption. The low level of vitamin D supplementation and improper calcium phosphorus ratio can also lead to milk fever. And imbalance of parathyroid hormone and calcitonin, as we studied earlier, like they are the two crucial hormones for the homeostasis of the milk fever, homeostasis of the calcium. The imbalance between these two hormones may lead to milk fever. And alkalosis due to excessive cations, like this part is intensively studied in cattle nutrition. What happens? A mild metabolic acidosis is essential for the proper absorption of the calcium. Like the anionic diets like chloride, sulfur, these will mildly increase the pH, acidic pH, so that there will be optimum efficient absorption of the calcium. Whenever the prepartum diets are rich in cations like potassium, like this, they will decrease the absorption of the calcium, making the doe or ewe susceptible to hypocalcemia. And then, like impaired calcium homeostasis, as we seen earlier, like impaired calcium homeostasis, abrupt decrease in calcium intake, which is combined with precipitating factors. What might be the precipitating factors? See, like forced exercise in late pregnancy, I'm telling, in late gestation, forced exercise, long distance transportation, deprivation of food, exposure to inclement weather, and grazing on oxalate-rich plants or green cereal crops. See, what happens, oxalate-rich plants, which are commonly used in goat or sheep nutrition, is our alfalfa, beet pulp, right? And then sesame meal, which are rich in oxalate. These oxalates chelates the calcium, making it unavailable for the absorption. So these precipitating factors, along with decreased supply of the calcium in the diet, make the animal more prone for milk fever. And then some animal risk factors which also adds the susceptibility to milk fever are higher parity animals. See, what happens as the animal become old, there will be decreased mobilization of the calcium, decreased number of osteoblasts. Okay, so osteoblasts are less, so that less resorption of the bone, so less plasma concentration for the plasma concentration of calcium. Another one is decreased absorption efficiency for the calcium. What happens? Vitamin D3 or 1,2,5-dihydroxycholecalciferol is essential. It should act on the intestine for the absorption of the calcium. But these receptors goes on declining when the age advances. So the animal risk factor here is when the, like, it's more of a less common in primiparous animals, but as the parity advances, the chances or the incidence of hypocalcemia is more. And then pregnant animal with multiple fetuses, yes, it demands more, so supply more, imbalance, and leads to milk fever. Then dairy goats capable of heavy lactation because high drain of calcium through the colostrum or the milk, making them susceptible to milk fever. Clinical signs: hyperexcitability, restlessness, decreased appetite, stiff gait, ataxia, salivation, constipation, decreased rumen motility, inability to rise. And it progresses to bloat, muscle tremors, like there will be shivering or slight tremors, which is more pronounced in goats compared to sheep. So resting of head with chin on the ground. The sheep, mainly a typical sign, they will rest their head with the chin on the ground, and there will be loss of anal reflex and sternal recumbency with frog lying position, as like frog sitting, so that there will be hind legs extended behind. Okay, subnormal temperature, as calcium is required for muscle contraction, there will be less muscle contraction. So the contraction of muscle is less, thermogenesis is less, leading to subnormal temperature. And tachycardia, heart sounds are quieter than normal. Sometimes they are feeble, they are not audible properly. Whenever there is concurrent hypomagnesemia, there will be heart sounds will be more pronounced, more profound. But whenever there is hypocalcemia as a single entity, on auscultation, the heart sounds her ear very feeble, and there will be absent or sluggish pupillary light reflex. And as the disease progresses from sternal recumbency, the animal goes to lateral recumbency, leads to then it goes to coma, and finally ends up in death. There are some pictures which show the clinical signs, like as I already said, resting of head with chin on the ground, and a typical S-shaped kink, like as we see in the second stage of hypocalcemia or milk fever in cattle, a sternal recumbency in goat, and constipation. See, you can see hard pellets, fecal pellets in the anus, and then relaxed anal sphincter. So earlier what I said, the frog sitting or frog lying position with the hind legs extended behind. So calcium is essential for contractions of all the muscles like smooth, cardiac and skeletal muscles. Low calcium concentration reduces food intake, rumen contractions, uterine and intestinal motility, and it increases the susceptibility to many metabolic and infectious diseases. Please look here. Hypocalcemia may be a driving force to other diseases. What happens? One of the literature says hypocalcemia is considered as the leading cause of dystopia in small ruminants. As for posturation, the contraction of abdominal muscles, the contraction of myometrial muscles or uterine muscles are very essential. Whenever there is hypocalcemia, there are obvious chances of dystopia. And then retention of fetal membranes or retention of placenta, and metritis in puerperal period, the lochia and all should be cleared off, should be discharged well. But whenever there is hypocalcemia, the discharges are not voided in, and they are stayed inside the body, giving conducive environment for the development of infections. And then retardation of uterine involution in postpartum period. The uterine involution takes place slowly, and so that the animal won't come to next breeding season immediately. It leads to a severe economic impact on the farmer too. Calcium is required for proper closure of the teat sphincter. Whenever there is hypocalcemia, the teat sphincter won't close normally and predisposing the dam for the mastitis. Diagnosis part, history of pregnancy or recent kidding will be there, and along with it the precipitating factors like transportation, forced exercise, inclement weather will be combined with it, and clinical signs what we have seen. But we have to see this course is very short, like it will be around 12 to 24 hours. That course will be very short. And then clinical pathology, this will aid in confirmatory diagnosis of the condition. Like here we have to go for the estimation of serum calcium level. Okay, what are the normal calcium level are given there, and ultimately in field we have to rely on response to treatment. Give the calcium therapy. If the Eve or DO responds, then consider it as hypocalcemia. Differential diagnosis, whenever we encounter with a condition which seems like hypocalcemia, this set of differential diagnosis should always be there in your mind. For example, first one is polioencephalomalacia, also called as cerebrocortical necrosis. The etiology for it is vitamin B1, that is thiamine deficiency, and it is more common in 2 to 6 months of age, like kids, it is more common, and there will be a history of sudden field change and also giving of excess carbohydrate diet. Okay, and then like feeding of coccidiostates like amprolium and sulfur-rich diets also predisposed to this condition. And like in clinical sign, a prominent nystagmus like rotation of the eyeballs can also be there. And another one important thing is animals in milk fever will be presented in comatose state, but in like polioencephalomalacia, that state of coma is not encountered. And then grain overload, that is acute ruminal acidosis. Like here, what we see, will coming like in history, there will be ingestion of highly fermentable carbohydrate diet. Recently, in 24 hours past, they have been ingested. And while the animal is presented to us, there will be acute distension of the rumen. And when we ballot or when we do the succussion of the rumen, there will be fluid splashing sound from the rumen. And like simple gadgets like we can go for motility check or even like pH check, where there will be decreased pH in the rumen. pH of the rumen liquor, that is 5.5, less than that it will be there. Along with it, the rumen liquor will only give the indication that like milky gray color with acidic odor will give the indication. And apart from that, clinical signs, what I said, in hypocalcemia, there will be solid pellet-like feces and constipation will be there. In pain overload, there will be semi-solid feces, and even in terminal stages, there will be severe diarrhea. And then toxic mastitis, simple, go for the examination of the mammary glands or the adult. And then in botulism, what happens, there will be flaccid paralysis, which will be progressive from the hindquarters. Okay, there will be flaccid paralysis, and the history of welling near the poultry farm areas will be there. And along with it, there will be a habit of pica in the animals, and no response to calcium therapy. If you give the calcium also, there won't be response. And then there will be severe abdominal respiration will be there. It will be of very severe in nature, and profuse salivation will be there in botulism. And then enterotoxemia, what we called as ET, there will be severe convulsions associated with diarrhea and a sudden death in overfed, like eye plane of nutrition, overfed sheep, there will be a sudden death. The only confirmatory diagnosis for the hypocalcemia is we have to go for serum calcium estimation. Otherwise, if it's not possible, we have to see the response to therapy, in which we won't get a response for enterotoxemia upon infusion of calcium. Treatment, infusion of calcium borogluconate, that is approximately 40 to 70 ml intravenously. Slowly we have to give. While giving, we have to auscultate the heart for any of the arrhythmias. If there are any arrhythmia, we have to stop the infusion. And then as a thumb rule, we can take it like we can give the calcium at the dose rate of 1 to 1.5 ml per kg. Right. And then quick response is noticed. If there are uncomplicated cases of hypocalcemia, the response are immediately shown. And to avoid the relapse of the disease or hypocalcemia, we have to give subcutaneous injections of the calcium borogluconate of 40 to 60 ml, which will act as depot preparation. And then the typical response for the calcium is seen with belching or eructation. So there will be in a convalescent phase, in a recovery phase also, there will be muscle tremor, which will extend to whole body. And then there will be improvement in cardiovascular system parameters. And after the calcium, there will be defecation of firm fecal ball, and urination occurs only after animal got up, which is a good positive prognostic sign. And immediately the sheep or goat start eating and start drinking, and they join the remaining of the flock. So prevention of this condition is mainly by, see, in stall-fed animals, they have less access to sunlight. So vitamin D deficiency is more chances. So we have to supplement vitamin D in prepartum late gestation animals as a supplementation, and the two mainly in stall-fed animals. In extensive grazing animals, what happens? They will extensively graze on cereal crops and hay, so which is again a poor source of calcium. So calcium supplementation is required. So maintain adequate dietary calcium and phosphorus ratio in late pregnancy to support fetal bone development, and special attention to feedstuffs containing oxalates as they chelate the calcium. With this, we have to avoid the managemental stressors like transportation, right? And forced exercise, like this. And use of anionic salts, that is acidification of diet, what I was discussed earlier, like anions, chloride and sulfur, they will induce a state of compensated metabolic acidosis, which will stimulate the calcium absorption and mobilization. More study in sheep and goat nutrition is required, as it is extensively studied on cattle nutrition. And finally, hypocalcemia in small ruminants is being underdiagnosed condition. Like, so it needs prompt diagnosis as like in their counterparts, large ruminants, cattle. And milk fever and pregnancy toxemia can occur in the same animal. Okay, rather than differential diagnosis of the two conditions, there might be a chances of occurrence of both the condition in the same animal. So we have to keep that in mind also. Thank you for patience. Thank you very much.